started to get used to doing these things recently, so it's kind of a new vibe for me. Podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was a new vibe for me. Like a year ago, I did my first live podcast. I did them on Zoom for a long time, just because of COVID, 2 years ago when I got started, and I did it with this guy in Long Island, and it's kind of one of those things where the first couple minutes is a little weird, you're on camera, it's uncomfortable, and then you kind of forget about the camera.
You got cameras there, yeah.
So you're the CEO of Azure, and we're sitting in your 3D printed studio. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the building we're in right now?
Sure. So it's been 3D printed in one piece, effectively. Floor, walls, roof, monolithically printed using recycled polymer with fiberglass. And we use a robotic arm that extrudes the recycled polymer, lays it layer by layer to create the structure that we have. So we have 2 beads to go to the nuts and bolts. They're like 1/2 inch thick each one. One forms the exterior layer. The other one kind of dives in and out to create our exterior wall geometry that gives us all the structural strength. And
so dual extruder?
No, one extruder, but it creates
2 layers.
Two beads, like one inside and one outside.
Simultaneously. So one extruder splits the material flow at one point into 2 separate?
As in like...
what are the 2 beads?
It has a route, so if you imagine it's a perfect circle, we've got an inner layer of the circle and an outer layer of the circle.
Okay.
It just one layer is to run around the outer circle and then the inner circle, and then it loops back and does the next layer of both. So
yeah.
one extruder is doing the layer for
okay.
each.
And so you have between the inner and outer circle of the extruder head, one material, and then is there separate material in the center, or it's just all one material?
So like, what's best to like?
Single material?
If you're picturing like, say, it's one material and it's laid by one extruder, it just creates voids and it creates channels that we then run our plumbing.
Nice.
So the interior surface is almost like, I can show you some photos like during the process, but we create kind of like a corrugated texture on the inside so that we're able to run wiring, plumbing, everything else from the inside after the print's complete. Then it gets spray foam insulation so that it's completely solid, compact with spray foam insulation before we then cover it with the interior finishes.
So from the exterior, all the lines are basically unbroken, continuous. If we were to take off the sheetrock behind us, we would see the spaces for the electrical and such?
Yeah, so you'd see like, we form trapezoids effectively in the interior layer of print. So where these lights are sat is obviously where one channel is, then it dives back out, which is where we fixed if you're going to compare it with traditional construction, it's not too dissimilar from, say, like a joisted and framed house that we'll have joists, which are our kind of interior print structure, then it dives back out and actually joins with the outer layer, so it becomes one thick layer, and then comes back out again. So we're creating almost like joist bays for everything to be running. We're builders from previous, so we've tried to make the whole thing as simple as possible.
Yeah, that cuts out a lot of steps in terms of drilling through studs. So also having the path makes it maybe easier. Instead of having to map out from a blank canvas, there's a clear instruction.
Yeah, for any like wiring and plumbing straight after, every single bay or channel is connected up and over.
Yeah, it seems like the training required for an electrician would be much easier.
Yeah, the assembly line process is very quick and easy for everyone after that print. So day one is the print. It comes off of the printer, is then ready to be wired, plumbed, and then insulated. And then like day 3, 4, and 5 are closing the inside, applying the coating to the outside, and then adding the windows, doors, and finishes. So
Very cool. And at one point, I think I heard that this studio unit, how many square feet is it?
This small one is like 120 square feet.
120 square feet was built for $25,000.
Yeah.
And so is that your cost or a cost you'd be able to provide it to customers at?
That's our sale cost for the unit, as you see it kind of now. Lights fitted, finishes on the inside.
Is that like a
everything.
guaranteed price?
It's a starting from, so it doesn't include adding HVAC, adding solar. You can have a solar battery.
So if someone places a pre-order with you, they won't have to pay a cent more than $25,000 for the base unit?
No, if they're committing to this.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the deposit required for that?
Just $100 at the moment. So it's a refundable deposit. Once we have a confirmed delivery date, we'll then take 50% and then the remaining 50% on delivery.
So if they want this unit, all they need is the money, obviously, and land. Here in California, there's a lot of promotion towards ADUs. How does that work?
That's part of the reason why we created this 120 square foot, because pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, we were building a lot of this size traditionally. So people wanted an extra 120 square feet, mainly because it's the limit for where you would need to pull a permit for a structure.
Mm-hmm.
So in most cities, it's regarded as more of kind of shed size. So 120 square feet is generally where they draw the line for it being a permitted structure. If you're running power, if you're running HVAC, then that's a separate permit. But that's why we created kind of this size, because it's a hassle-free. People don't have to wait the period of time to get a permit and then have it installed. So we can effectively, someone can place an order, we can print it and produce it in like a week. And then for ADUs, they've obviously been, particularly in California, been super popular since the regulations changed a few years ago. Anything over 120 square feet is a permitted structure. So we have 180, a 360, 540, 720, 900, which range from the 180 is kind of like a tiny house setup. It's got a small bathroom, a small kitchen, and then a living space that's transferable into a bedroom with a bed that disappears into the ceiling. And then the 360 is more like I don't know if you've covered any, like, probably not in 3D printing, but like garage conversions. Typical garage is a 20 by 20, and it fits generally like a bathroom in the corner, a kitchenette adjacent, and then kind of an open studio,
Sure.
Almost like a studio apartment size. And then the 540, 720 are one bedrooms, and the 900 is a two bedroom. So yeah, we cover a range, and we've the pre-sale you were mentioning, we've effectively sold about $5.5 million worth of units. I think the most popular is the 120, but there's a number of the rest is a pretty even split between the other sizes, and people are using them for ADUs, but we've also got developers that are using them as single family homes or homes for rent. There's one developer that's got 13 540s and one 900 going in, that's going to be homes that he's going to have on a rental basis.
Yeah, I could see something like this having maybe a loft and being a tiny Airbnb, even like something like that, or if you could stack them or something. I'm sure you're thinking of all kinds of different ideas for the future, and you just being here in your facility, you've got a lot of different stuff going on. You have some prefab on the other side. Before we get into your construction company, before you started this, what does this need to sit on? So like a 4-inch concrete slab, or in California?
These don't even need a slab because the floor is structural. We print the floor.
Wow.
It can sit as a kind of conventional crawl space.
So you need ground testing.
Just needs a stem wall foundation around the perimeter to span the distance, which has a few advantages. We've done a number of prefabs in the past, and when you're landing a prefab onto a slab, then the difficulties you have from a site perspective.
Oh well.
Got a spare shirt upstairs if you want to wear an Azure one.
I have an extra shirt in my car actually.
Yeah.
That was stupid.
You know, we can give you an Azure shirt.
That was my suggestion.
All right, we're still going. Okay, new shirt. And we were talking about your construction company. So before, actually we were talking about the stem foundation. What's the size of that stem? How deep does it have to be?
Into the ground is, it depends on the soil conditions, but a minimum is usually like 24 inches. But they're the kind of things that, because we can't predict where it's going or what the conditions are, what type of soil it's going onto, whether it's a hillside or whatever, those sorts of things are down to kind of a local architect engineer to.
Yeah, the hillside gets expensive fast.
Exactly. We give them the module sizes and the structural information they need for those, and then they calc out the foundation requirements. But
in ideal conditions with flat ground and good soil, maybe a $10,000 expense for the slab and the electrical.
For the foundation, maybe between 5 and 7. Again, electrical is something that you can't necessarily put a number on because you don't know where it's running from. If it's running 200 feet from the street or
from the house,
100 feet, 100 feet from the house, but like there's some pretty big backyards. You don't necessarily know how far you're trenching and running cable, so that's a bit of a variable that has to be kind of quoted on site plans. But
so 10 to 15 maybe. So roughly.
Yeah.
Construction's tough. The estimates never are the same as the as-built, especially with custom one-off projects. If you're doing a lot of ADUs, a lot of studios, you have enough data to get those numbers tighter. Let's talk about your construction experience. So, when did you start your construction company?
The company Azure we started in 2019.
Okay.
So literally just before the pandemic, and we started it. I mean, our mantra was being trustworthy, timely, and innovative, and so we already had visions of creating something.
That doesn't sound like a construction company.
No, exactly. We're trying to improve the reputation of construction companies, and I mean I've had a construction company back in the UK as well, and I was seeing the same similarities to kind of the challenges back there, that people want something quick and easy like they do for everything else, and to have people working, especially when you're doing ADUs in people's backyards, they're looking out the window to see if people are there at 8:30. And if they're there earlier, then they've got people hammering nails in the back of their backyard whilst people are trying to sleep, or if they've got a Zoom call, especially during the pandemic.
Nice.
People are trying to work in their main house whilst work's going on in the back, and it just makes a very kind of.
So how did you accommodate all of that before this solution?
We started to. We were doing very traditional stuff, but we were starting to move towards more kind of pre-panelized. And as you can see next door, like prefab, but more of a traditional sense of like steel frame prefab.
Offsite.
Yeah, moving as much of the process offsite as we could, so that the timeline on site is reduced. And we ultimately have come to this because we see it as being the most time-saving solution. So trying to make it as hassle-free and as easy a transaction for a homeowner as possible, because that's the biggest kind of deterrent for homeowners, and that's the biggest kind of stress and whatnot that people experience when they undertake a home renovation or a new build project. That it's a stress on the purse strings, but it's also a stress on kind of the time and noise that kind of comes with it. So reducing both of those things down was a huge objective for us, and with this we feel like we've got a good solution.
So you started Azure as a GC in 2019?
Yeah.
Cool. And how many ADUs have you done since then?
ADUs and backyard studios, we've done close to 40. We've done a
Nice.
few number of remodels and new builds as well.
And with what size team is that starting and then now today?
When we started out, it was I guess 4 of us. when we first started. We have a team. We have a payroll of 13 now. So we have a number of project managers and site guys. But yeah, a lot of our, especially for our bigger projects, a lot of our work is subcontracted to our specialists.
I saw you had about 5 units starting to skeletons being built on the other side. What's going on with those? They're sold already?
Yeah, that's more of a kind of custom prefab. So that's going to a client as an ADU as well. One ADU that's 800 square feet, like a spacious 1-bedroom. But I mean, you can kind of see from that skeleton how the process that we've got to is so much like we're having a frame prefabricated in steel, then we're having the stud work added to the outside, we're adding a roof, we're adding a membrane on the outside, we're adding the siding and the sheathing. It's like there's a lot that goes into just getting to that stage. But with this, the fact that day 2 we're already wiring and plumbing, it's like that first day of having a print that collects together so many different trades is just a huge efficiency.
Yeah, and to get this building and the robotic arm you have outside, did you raise investor capital or are you funding it through your GC operation?
A little bit of both. Mainly the second one. We only up until recently we had some investor angel investments come in, and we've also just started a crowdfunding page because we've been because the small amount of marketing that we have done has done so well. We know that we need second, third. We have room here in this facility to have 3 printers running at the same time, so we can be producing 3 units per day. So we're raising money at the moment to fund the second and the third one, and then hopefully beyond that we're looking at the next facility.
Cool. And you mentioned it's not just going to be a simple robotic arm. There's a little bit of a contraption and apparatus.
It's kind of unique, yeah.
Totally unique.
Yeah, we might share that on our next when we invite you down. Once everything's running, you can get a behind the scenes on how it runs. But yeah, it's essentially an extrusion from a robotic arm, but it's kind of a unique element to it that helps us achieve the size of print that we're able to do. So we're set inside a 10 by 12 here, but we'll be doing the outside to outside structure will be 10 by 19.
Maybe it will enable more round shapes.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's the whole thing. Some people will ask us, why didn't you just go square? It's like, well, we can build square out of any other product. The beauty of having a robotic print is that we can create all sorts of shapes and designs. So that's the ambition, is just to kind of come up with lots of different ways of creating it.
The other really good answer for circles versus squares is more square feet inside compared to the perimeter. So you're using less material and getting more roof space.
Yeah, exactly.
Space.
Yeah.
What kind of design elements with the new possibilities the technology will enable are you going to bring to construction? A lot of people try to make the technology fit the paradigm of traditional construction and make a house that looks traditional, but I'm hoping maybe you have some ideas against that in
Yeah.
a different direction.
I mean, this one is slightly unique. What we've just released another design model, which is more of a kind of traditional look.
Sure.
It has a pitched roof. That's more aimed towards our people that have more of a traditional
You do
perspective.
have to pull them into the new world.
That was the motivation, was to show them something that was not too dissimilar to what they know, but creating a shell for it that's been 3D printed.
Like how Tesla had a fake grill on their first cars, and their car doesn't have a grill, but people thought it looked funny. But now they don't have the grill. So, what will your 3D printed house look like without grills?
We have a few napkin designs that haven't necessarily seen their full form yet, but we have a lot of ideas of what we can do with it. We effectively have a footprint that we can print, and the possibilities and the parameters beyond that are kind of, and the interpretations beyond that are kind of endless. We see it's kind of a process, but the first process is us creating something that proves the efficiency, proves how quickly it can be done, and it brings then time and cost savings to everybody. But then the only way we're going to achieve that is by having a set number of models that we're printing, a set number of footprints that we're printing. But once we have proved that out and we're moving on to the next stage, it's then going to be more about customizing, moving back to kind of having a custom printed house that's prefab rather than, okay, you can select from this size or that size. So once we have our proof of the efficiency, we can then move almost back to having more of a custom approach and say, look, this is the footprint, you can create whatever module shape you want to do. These are the parameters for the structure that can be done, and there's a little bit more of a play for the home owner end user to influence how the structure looks, so that people are getting their own custom designs, rather than picking from a selection.
What's the best way to get this thing on the back of a truck?
What's the best way? So this will be rolled onto a flatbed, and then it just gets picked up when it gets to site and craned into position.
By hooks on the roof, or
no? It's slung from the underside.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a very safe and structurally sound way of picking it up. So
not nerve-wracking at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A lot of things are nerve-wracking in the beginning as you're just getting started. You've never done it before, so you got to establish that baseline.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing that we've lifted and placed prefab units before, so
mm-hmm.
in the same sort of way. So at least from that side of things, we know that works, and then the structure itself we have full confidence in. But yeah, when you're attempting something for the first time, there's always going to be a few nerves.
Yeah, I like that you're innovating within a cash flowing business. A lot of startups think they can only innovate, and they think that like with the ideas in their head they can like just create something that's going to be useful for society. But by having a business that's like you have purchases, you have sales, you're working building stuff right now, it just seems like a better way to do it to me, especially as the economy's shifting and like there's a little less funny money in the investor realm. People's crypto holdings aren't what they used to be. Maybe that's not something to laugh about, but having a business, not just a startup, I think adds a lot of value, and it gives you the construction experience too.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like coming from construction backgrounds gives us a lot of insights and a lot of benefits. And yeah, it's not been easy to kind of have this almost like passion project on the side, build and grow, but we're kind of sensing now that it's acceleration that's now going to kind of move us on to reaching the people and reaching the kind of production levels that we want to get to. This is effectively a proof of what can be done and what can be achieved, and the next stage is to be proving the production rate that we know we can achieve and show the efficiencies that creates.
Yeah, manufacturing hell, some would call it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting setup you have. That's like 1/3 this side for the robotics, and then you have 2/3 dedicated right now to the prefab construction. I think it'll be telling. This area maybe will be with half the space producing more units at a certain point.
I mean, you'll come back in a couple of months' time, and the 20-foot wall you see in front of you now will be completely opened up, and our production will start at that end of the facility. We'll have hopefully before too long the 3 printers alongside each other, both producing one each day. And then the assembly line will work its way down. We'll have spray booths for the insulation, we'll have spray booths for the coating on the outside, and then this area that we're sat in here is kind of where all the finishes happen before it then is loaded onto the flatbeds out the door and heading out. And again, how we picture it is that because this part of the whole process is so efficient, we almost need to wait for the heads up and the green light from the site to say, yep, utilities are in, the foundation's ready, and then we'll almost start production. Because at that point we'll know that we can kind of ship as soon as it's complete and ready, so that we're not getting stacked up with completed units.
Yeah, I mean that's a beautiful thing logistically if you can have just-in-time production.
Yeah.
What kind of lessons that you learned from the more traditionally built, even offsite ADUs that you're going to bring into this that you're kind of eager for not to have to deal with anymore?
Interesting question. I think one of the hardest things in construction is kind of client relationships. Because especially if you're in for the long haul on a new build or something like that, you're I call it a relationship because it effectively is. You're like committing to somebody for, sometimes if we're doing a new build, it's like a year, beyond a year. For some of these kind of, we've done garage conversions as ADUs. They can take kind of like 3-4 months. Your day-to-day interaction and everything else is a huge challenge. I'm sure not just for our experiences, but being able to have, like we see in so many other walks of life, like you're buying a car, it's a very clean transaction usually. For having a completed car, kind of either you're picking up off the forecourt or it's being delivered to you.
Some companies make it easier than others.
Yeah. But it should be, construction can and should be a lot cleaner in its transaction than. So I mean that's how we come at this from so many different angles. We come at it from a construction perspective, a prefab perspective, and a 3D printing technology perspective. So like having kind of 3D printing competitors using different materials but printing on site is a step towards improving a traditional process of, say, laying block or pouring in place concrete walls, but you're only making that one process of the whole construction process that little bit more efficient. So if you're doing a new build, you're probably saving a huge amount of time on laying block or forming walls and pouring in place, but you're ultimately still completing the rest of the building in a more traditional way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Construction's not like other industries always. Maybe with younger guys it's different, but when I was working construction jobs with older guys, the relationships weren't about please and thank you. It was about the 3 principles, or at least 2 of the principles you mentioned earlier, like trust and timeliness. They don't care if you're a felon or like construction has all kinds of people from different walks of life, but if you're trustworthy and you're timely, those are like the most valuable commodities.
Definitely.
I think it's probably easy to build relationships in construction if you can deliver on those things consistently.
Yeah.
But is the only way to do that by reducing the people?
Well, yeah. I mean, like any,
I agree.
Like any business, it's kind of taking away some of the unknowns and some of the risk, mitigating some of the risks, and having a controlled environment where you're repeating the same processes to create something with a certain amount of customization. Like I'm not saying that we're creating just kind of one look and one finish, but there's definitely customization that homeowners have for these units. But if we're kind of reducing some of the outside risks where you're building a new home or even just a small ADU, a small ADU might have up to 50 people that you're relying upon, directly or indirectly,
Sure.
they're all part of the process, and each one of those 50 can have a human error or
Create a bottleneck.
something that can cause a delay or cause a quality issue or cause something that's going to affect the product at the end of the day. So having more of a controlled delivery of construction means that those risks are definitely being mitigated.
One thing to think about just for fun, like Tesla's new Gigafactory has these hexagons in the floor, so it's 4 floors, and their robotic arms are passing parts up and down through the floors instead of just like left, down, right, front, back. So they totally just like demolished the production line mentality.
Another dimension.
Yeah, you guys need a loft. So
Yeah.
you can pass the windows down or prepare the electrical and drop it in. Robotic arm from here.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we see the company going. We've automated the process for day one, and that takes very little kind of supervision once it's up and running. But days 4 to 5 can come down to days 2 to 5 can come down from like from 4 days to more like 2, potentially 3 days. So having a situation where we're giving more responsibility to a robotic arm or something similar that is maybe applying the spray insulation or applying the coating on the outside, we can move more towards a car manufacturing assembly line rather than a traditional construction one.
Yeah, there's no shortage of aspects of the job left to automate. There's so much left to be in terms of the roof, the windows, even the electrical and plumbing and stuff is done by hand now. Like, all that could be electrical. So the electrical in the walls, is that held there with some kind of staple, or what's the?
Yeah, that's at the moment it's pretty traditional. It's just got the regular kind of wire clips that are fixed back to the structure. So yeah, same way it would be.
With steel plate over it, or?
No, just clip loose.
So what if you start drilling into the wall?
I mean, they're deep. They're not.
In the ceiling,
they're not on the surface. Yeah.
Not in the.
No, they are, but they're like again, it's similar to any other home. Not every wire is going to be protected.
And the thickness of the walls, like 10 inches, or?
These walls, the print thickness is 6 inches,
Mm-hmm.
and then ½ inch of drywall. So yeah.
What's the insulation, or is the print the insulation?
No, there's a spray foam insulation that goes in after all the wiring and plumbing's been done, and that's we actually have got R30 on all 4 sides of this print. So over a 5.5 inch thick void, we fill it with closed foam, closed cell spray foam insulation, which gets R30. So when we're shipping to other states, we have a slightly deeper profile that allows us to pack more insulation in there to create the R values that we need for different environments.
Cool. So what's the thing that you need the most right now? Is it, I mean, you have projects you're working on, there's activity, busy. Do you need employees, funding, clients?
I guess funding is the top of the tree, because that leads us to be able to attack all the elements that we need. So for us to cater to the, I guess, waiting list that we have at the moment, we need inventory up front, ready to serve, the printer ready to serve each section of the assembly line. We'll be, in the next couple of months, we'll be needing to hire another probably 10 guys, half of which would be on the factory floor, half of which would be kind of running and organising and managing the orders.
Let's say you don't get funding. You've got that printer there. You can start producing some number of units without funding, I imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean we're online to have this production line of 1 printer starting in October, and there's nothing kind of stopping us from creating that as I mentioned, it's more just kind of being able to keep our foot on the gas and kind of accelerate to the next level at this stage, because everything has a kind of lead time. So the more that we can, the printer that you saw, we're waiting on parts that have taken kind of 3 months to get. So some of the material, just even windows and doors, can take kind of 2 months at the moment in the current climate. So the more things that we can have ready to go in our hands brings back some of that control in terms of where we're going.
When you take on investors, are they buying into the whole GC, like the prefab stuff too, or is it separate entities?
No, it's all one. So
wow.
Printed Homes is taking construction as well. I mean, we see that the construction side will maintain, if not kind of grow within the Printed Home side of things, because we'll have all of the site work, we'll have all of the trenching, the utility runs, the foundations and the installations that will come with it. So there's still going to be a big revenue just from that side of the things.
Did you base your valuation on the cash flow or the kind of IP in the startup?
It's probably more of a question for my business partner. But
sure.
Yeah, I think a bit of both. Our crowdfunding one was, I think, maybe based on both cash flow and
Can you say the valuation on the crowdfunding platform?
Yeah, I mean, it's public knowledge on there. I think it's 24 million is the valuation on Republic.
I would say the valuation jumps, at least in my eyes, after you're producing units in-house with that printer. So I would think it would be advantageous to wait until after that to raise money, no? But it's a good opportunity before then.
Potentially, yeah. It definitely would make me sleep better at night. But I mean, that's the selling point for anyone getting involved now, is that they'd be getting in just before that jump happens. Mm-hmm. So like if we can, our Republic is at $1 million at the moment. If we can raise $1 million on there, those people might see a huge jump by the end of the year once that production line is running. So.
Yeah, I mean, and you're so far right now that $1 million could really take you a long way.
Yeah, even we almost need to spend just half of that on inventory and stock, so that come October we have our print material ready to go. We have the rest of the building materials kind of lined up.
$1 million should be enough for 3 printers and enough material to build at least 100 units, something like that.
I mean, our printers are around 500
wow.
each.
Is that with the whole apparatus?
The whole system, yeah. Each system is about 500. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're $1 million will get us maybe everything we need for our second printer and probably inventory that we need to start servicing those orders as soon as the production line starts in October. But yeah.
Somebody should contact Hydra and have them make like a big press for they can spit things out like this of aluminum, some kind of steel alloy. Did you guys consider anything like that? Or other types of construction?
Yeah, I mean, we were drawn to Polymer just because it gave us so many properties that were useful to us. So having it as our membrane, having it as our roofing finish means that one day print is bringing so many different things together. Mm-hmm. If we were using a cement based or potentially a metal, then we might not be getting all of the exact same uses out of it. To be able to print an inch thick of this material, I guess if you're comparing quantity of material to what we benefit from it, this is what we saw as being the most optimal. Mm-hmm. If you're going to print an inch thick of metal, then your expense for each one is going to be significantly higher.
Yeah, certainly. But you wouldn't need an inch of metal.
No. Well, no. not a full inch, but you'd probably be you wouldn't be able to do it as thin as you would need to compare the cost. I mean,
You basically just have a shipping container at that point.
yeah, the material cost for this is like the print material was like six grand.
About a shipping container.
Yeah.
I don't know, shipping containers are more expensive now, but those units going into Palm Springs, how many square feet are they each?
That's 20 by 8, so we have 5 of them.
20 by 8, so 160 square feet. And are they ADUs or standalone?
They're modular, so
cool.
They're joined to create one 800 square foot 1 bedroom unit.
Oh, nice. That makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
And that size is optimal for transportation.
Yeah. So all of our modules that we create are going to be a similar sort of size, like 9.5 feet wide.
Those points you were bringing up earlier, the sound, the noise, waking up early for people having an ADU built in their backyard, are those the primary benefits, or is there a cost benefit?
I mean, we see it as a cost benefit here in California. I mean, it might not necessarily translate across the country.
Your cost in California, the average cost per square foot is like 350 or 60 square foot.
And these are $225 for the unit itself, not including the foundation and utility connection. So I mean, yeah, with that all in, you might need to be adding another kind of 30%. But
right around that 350.
Yeah.
What is California going to do about the homeless problem here, or has that changed at all in the past?
That's one of the conversations that I've passed on to my business partner this morning. We've got a company that we're speaking with that we're discussing how we can help on that side of things. We've spoken. This is the second company that we've spoken to that are involved in that process here in LA. So we see it as a potential good fit for having, whether it's a dedicated production line to create a specific home based on the requirements that they would need for homeless housing. Then
everyone's seen the $100,000 tents headline. I mean, this is a lot more compelling than a tent if it can be transported within reason. That's the main drawback compared to a tent. But at $100,000, it's hard to imagine you can't find some margin in there to ship it.
Yeah, I mean, we're thinking that a 180 unit that we produce for $40,000 would be a good fit for homeless housing, and the benefit from their perspective is that they're getting something that has a longer life than a tent, and anything that they're kind of producing or using now that they might be I don't know what they're spending, but they'd be investing in more years of use, and these are bolted to a foundation. So I mean, ultimately they can be unbolted and taken to a new location if they needed to be. I mean, that's what we say to our homeowners. If you put one of these in your backyard and you decide, I want to move it across the other side of the yard, or I want to take it with me when I move house, then that is a possibility. You can just disconnect it from the foundation and you're away.
Yeah, a big part of the reason I started this channel was to try to find a construction method that uses automation to make construction cheaper, figure out how to get more houses built, and like the imagining a world where the supply of housing is like drastically outweighs demand and housing becomes very affordable. And I think automation is going to eventually do that. So I guess, like, would that decrease the price of housing for everybody if somebody can get a house for cheaper, or what? How does that change the world?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that makes me think of. That there is a little bit of reservation in terms of, is it going to take away jobs necessarily?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I think that at the moment we have a supply line that is way below the demand requirement, and we're probably not, if anything, it's going to bring more people in, but increase that supply line to a lot closer to what the demand is. So I don't see it as a negative on that.
I hear way too many of these companies hiring to imagine that it's taking away jobs. They can't fill the jobs that they have.
Yeah. It's almost just we're going to be, even if it's the same level of jobs that are currently out there, it's just going to mean that the same level of jobs are creating like 10 times as many homes.
Increases the appeal. Like a young person might want to build homes with Azure rather than your they want to work on this side, not that side. Yeah. And also, they I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were.
But so all of those things you would think are going to afford. I shouldn't use the word afford because I'm about to use they're going to lend themselves to more affordable housing, having a supply line that is just getting more and more efficient in terms of how, because material cost is a big part of building, but labor is also a huge
the workforce needs to be there, and you're decreasing the barrier to entry by making things like electrical installation more simple. So it's easier for people to do these skilled jobs that aren't being filled right now in traditional roles.
Exactly.
So the printed houses, applying that to the homeless problem, from what I've seen, the city that has dealt with their homeless problem the best is actually Houston, Texas. They had, I think, between 3,000 and 10,000 homeless people, and they put together a program to do some kind of temporary housing, and then I don't know exactly how it worked. There's some kind of work program where they upgrade through a ladder system and eventually get there's a person in society with a job and a life. And part of the reason I actually set up a studio in Houston is to try to learn more about that. Maybe I can meet some of the people that went through the program and see how it applies. But LA has 100,000 or more people, so who knows what the solution is. I think we should look to Houston.
Yeah. No, it needs to definitely be an investment in not just thinking that giving them a home will solve the fact that they're homeless. It's there's a lot more kind of support and more of a program, as you say, that needs to go into place to help people keep their home and keep on rebuilding their life with, as you say, a job and a community around them that's gonna support them. So
I wouldn't discount the value of a home in achieving that. I think it's a huge step for the people who are really in need to. It's maybe a combination of a home and somebody to care a little bit. Or something.
I'm not talking ourselves out of a sale. It's definitely, the home is a big part of it, but
I'd say the most important part.
Not the
the bottom of the pyramid.
Exactly. Yeah. There's the support system that goes along with it is going to be a huge part to kind of maintain it and not mean that those communities that you're creating are then left to either return to previous ways or create something that is more detrimental than beneficial.
You guys doing an NFT project? Of course,
not
I thought about it.
Yeah, we.
It's bad timing.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing right now.
I almost asked that jokingly because everybody has an NFT project. It's whatever. Web3, but there's potential for cool ideas there if you're making utility out of the blockchain.
Yeah.
I think if it's not a utility-based thing, though, it's probably going to be wasteful. Another group I visited that's doing drone construction wants to build the biggest pyramid ever. So that with Adobe, you just have it always just autonomously constructing bigger and bigger until it's bigger than the pyramids.
Wow.
They're calling it the pyramid scheme NFT. So I think that it's good poking fun at the Web3 people.
Yeah.
I like things that are real.
Yeah, I mean the people whose minds are blown by 3D printing. I'm one of those. My mind's more blown by NFT and the whole kind of system. So yeah,
there's the kind of a magic quality to 3D printing and even NFTs where people get excited about it. And there's sometimes a gap between their imagination and the reality of the print. or the reality of the process and the challenges that go with it. How do you navigate the? Like, were you there when this was printed?
Yeah, yeah.
Were there challenges?
Yeah. They're all challenges that I guess, well, most of them. There's certain minor blips and defects that you will see on this that won't be on future ones because of lessons learned.
Sure.
But there's things that are going to be inherent, which are like there's so many benefits of using a recycled polymer with fiberglass, but one of the negatives is that it has as it's cooling layer by layer, you tend to get some warp. So it's something that we can, and we are attempting solutions to improve, but the amount of warp you get isn't significant. It's still within kind of construction build tolerances, but in the strive for perfecting the process, it's one thing that we're looking at to improve, which is it's finding a way, whether it's the environment that you're printing in, the optimal temperature, but finding a way that you're not having a completely cool base whilst you're printing at 250 degrees C on the top layer, and then you're having that heat change between layers causing it to causing stresses to pull away from each other. Then that's where you get the warp. If we can kind of keep the temperature more consistent as the layers go up, then it will mean that it all cools at a more regulated level across each of the layers, and the warp doesn't occur. So that's something that we're working on.
Much more similar to traditional 3D printing than concrete printing.
Yeah.
So are you printing on heated bed?
Yeah, that's one of the steps, but because we're printing 10 feet high, there's almost like a big section in the middle that's not getting that level of heat, so the bed's keeping the bottom layers warm, and then we've got hot layers laying on top, but that middle section is what we're working out how to...
You'll need to print in a sauna or something.
Exactly, yeah. Turn it up to 60 degrees. I mean, it's going to be the space that the printers are going to be set is going to be conditioned, but yeah, whether we can have it at a level that it needs whilst being a workable space is going to be the challenge.
Better yet, make it not a workable space so that it's fully automated.
Yeah, yeah.
Good motivator to have the heat. People won't want to be in there.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, we'll need to kind of work out what the optimal solution is. But yeah, that's one of the challenges that we get with. We don't get the cracks and fissures that might build up in a concrete print, but we have different challenges that we'll probably work on and continue to work on until we find a new one.
Yeah, well, I think you'll be able to raise $1 million with the crowdfunding thing, no problem.
Yeah.
And that should accelerate things for you guys quite a bit.
That's the hope, yeah.
And if with those 3 units, printing 1 a day, that puts you at 1,000 a year output.
Yeah.
As a reference point, there's a company called Boxable with a little bit more expensive unit, I guess similar price point. They've put out maybe 150 units at this point, and they just raised money at a $3 billion valuation. So once you get to that 150 mark, you maybe start asking questions about billions.
Yeah. Well, that's the benefit for anyone that gets in now, is that they could see that next valuation being a huge jump.
Yeah, I don't know if their timing might have been pretty lucky with like the November, December economy, just everything changing these days.
Yeah.
But who knows where the world is going to go next?
I mean, wherever it's going, affordable housing is still going to be needed. Even if it goes south, then affordable housing is going to become even more popular. Yeah. So yeah, we see there always being a demand, and that's what we released the new model, as I mentioned, over the weekend, and we had a huge influx just off of that unit that we released. I think we had like 1.3 million of orders or pre-orders in like a 4-5 day period. So there's, even in the current kind of climate, there's still huge interest
Yeah, you got over 100 pre-orders at least. So how long, if somebody orders one now, when do you expect to deliver that unit? The backlog.
It depends on the second and third
Sure.
printer. I mean, worst case scenario, we're printing off of 5 million of 5.5 million of orders. Effectively, is just over 6 months of production. So that's our kind of motivation and drive to kind of add to that one printer. So
from October.
Yeah.
So maybe in April, if somebody orders now, they could potentially, all things going decently well, get it in April. Maybe earlier if you raise the million, get 3 printers going.
Exactly.
What's your lead time on a printer? So if you raise the money, how long till you get the new units?
These parts have been kind of, it's like 2 to 3 months to get the parts, and then it's a month to assemble. So 3 to 4 months from the point of order to having an operating printer.
Yeah, supply chains are so unpredictable.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
And what else?
I mean, these are probably very different to other 3D printing processes that you've seen, I would assume. I mean, coming at it from more of a prefab than a site build perspective.
I have seen Mighty Buildings UV cured process in their facility in San Francisco, I think. Or Oakland.
Yeah. Were they printing panels, or were they printing?
They were printing ADU. They have like an inner shell, and then it's covered from the inside and the outside. I've seen a lot of the comments, people saying stuff about UV cured polymers, that it's like toxic potentially, or that it shouldn't be outside. I know you have the coating, and the toxicity thing's a weird one because dentists have been using UV cured polymers in your teeth for a long time. You have anything to say about that stuff?
I mean, we haven't seen any, from our initial test, we haven't seen any, like people often ask about outgassing and microplastics, but we haven't seen anything from initial testing, and the fact that ours is effectively sealed on both sides, so you don't see any printed surface on the inside, and on the outside it's all coated anyway, so there's not anything that is exposed to even potentially release anything. So I feel like that second layer of defense on top of the fact that we haven't seen anything in our testing yet. I mean, kind of like polymers like ABS, you tend to get a little bit more off-gassing and things like that, but with our polymer, we haven't seen anything yet.
Is yours more like PLA or TPA or?
It's a PETG.
Sure.
Not too dissimilar from this.
So it's like organically based.
Yeah, I mean, this
Petrol.
is obviously safe for food and storage and everything else. So it's a relatively docile polymer.
Yeah, that we eat a credit card a week of plastic thing was debunked. So you don't have to. It's probably some plastic, but not a credit card worth.
Exactly.
But the future for Azure, you trying to scale up to thousands and millions of houses.
Yeah, I mean, we as I say, we see it as a combination. What we've created is kind of a combination of lots of different things, and essentially it's coming out as almost a new category of construction.
Yeah.
And we see that as being hugely popular down the line. So we don't necessarily see an end game. We see that with the green, with the environment in mind, we don't really want to be having a mega factory based here in California shipping to Florida and Massachusetts and Washington and all four corners of the states. We see that this facility with the 3 printers will produce 3 a day. We've already had inquiries from those 4 corners of the states, but we see that, and for the early inquiries, they'll probably be served by this facility.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of see that the benefit, rather than having shipping costs across the states,
Localized production.
we'll have micro facilities in the areas that have the demand for the units, where we can replicate the same assembly line. It's all very automated, so it's going to be quite easy to recreate in multiple different locations. So that's going to be the strategy, going from facility to facility and recreating what we'll have here. So
Do you intend on owning, operating all those facilities, or maybe a franchise kind of model? Or?
Owner operating is how we see it at the moment. And even beyond the States, we're getting inquiries from Europe, we're getting inquiries from Australia, East Asia, so it's starting here in the States, but has huge potential to go global as well.
Certainly. And right now, are there any positions you're hiring for, or you're waiting until the fundraising is complete?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg, but as I say, within the next couple of months, it's going to be engineers, it's going to be factory floor, assembly line, it's going to be sales, it's going to be finance, it's going to be.
So if someone's listening and they want to start in a few months, what kind of qualities are you looking for?
Definitely forward-thinking, innovative, and we come from very much a kind of growth mindset, trail of thought, where we're all improving and developing each day. No one's the finished article. So having a mindset where you're going to come in and bring everything that you've got, and also soak everything out off of the people around you, and just improve the processes around you, improve the process and concept that we have for the future is what we're looking for. I want people around me that are going to improve me as well as the rest of the team. So it's a very exciting time to be involved. We effectively are we've been around for 3 years, but we're still in that startup mentality. So there's a lot of I wear a lot of hats. Everyone else involved in the company wears a lot of hats.
This is in a lot of ways a new venture. You were still in construction, so many parts are the same.
Yeah. But yeah, we're interested in those kinds of people.
Yeah, personally, what I like to pay the most attention to is pace of innovation in the companies that I check out. So this kind of establishes the baseline, and you made some very bold predictions. If 25% of them come true in twice as much time, I think it'll be an amazing thing to see. And I can't wait to see the progress, and I'll certainly stop by again next time I'm in LA to see how far you guys have come from now.
Yeah.
And this is you got the printer outside, this is your first unit, so even though your company's 3 years old, the printing startup is really starting to get running now. It's kind of hitting the ground. So.
Yeah, the website went live beginning of January, so it's
cool.
It's very new and fresh. It's been something that we've been growing for the last year and a half. But
I'm sure you've been thinking about it for a long time, maybe even as a kid playing with Legos or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything left unsaid that?
Not that I can think of. Ron, is there anything we need to? I think we've plugged everything we need to plug, and we've covered all the details that I can think of.
Cool. Well, like I said, this is a great starting point to start the comparisons of how fast you innovate. So we'll see what comes next and what's here the next time I'm able to stop by. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. Good to meet you.
So that was good. You guys have your